Okay, welcome to Firefighting Today, the weekly roundtable show where we talk about all sorts of things fire service related. This week we're talking about fireground accountability in general, fireground accountability systems. We're going to kind of talk about the whole gamut, or at least what we can talk about in an hour. So that's what we're doing today. I do encourage any of you, if you are watching us live, on YouTube. Feel free to leave a YouTube comment. We'll bring that comment right into the panel and we'll be able to interact. I appreciate that. Some folks are already leaving comments, or you can actually leave a comment on the Google Plus events page. Either way, you should be able to interact with the panel pretty easily. So, I am your host, Peter Lamb. I'm the host of this show. I'm the author of PeteLamb.com, and I am the host of the Firefighter Training Podcast. So let's introduce the panel. We'll start with you, Rob.
Good evening, everybody. Rob Fling. I'm Chief of Department with Dix Hills Fire Department out on Long Island. I'm also the president and founder of Face Peace On, facepeaceon.com, and author, podcast guest, and busy guy.
All around, just a great guy. If you haven't paid attention,
great guy. I said busy guy.
If folks haven't paid attention to Face Peace On, Rob's trying to do some good things having to do with safety, cancer, all of that kind of stuff. So please take a look over there. We'd appreciate it. Kevin, say hello.
Good evening, everyone. Kevin Burns, Deputy Fire Chief at Framingham Fire Department. Thank you, Chief Lamb, for having me.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Joe Starnes, say hello.
Good evening, Chief. Joe Starnes, Oak Grove Volunteer Fire Department, PIO, full-time geezer from Union County, North Carolina. Currently project manager for Project Kill the Flashover, and every once in a while I hang out with you.
All right. Good stuff. Greg, say hello.
Greg Howard, I'm the Deputy Chief in Operations Washington segment on Vancouver Island. Glad to be here.
Okay, good. And if I could have the panel, we're getting some feedback from somewhere. I'm not sure where it is, but if somebody can help me out with that. Charlie, say hello.
Hi, Chiefs, and hi to everyone on the panel and out there in TV land. Charlie Hall, Deputy Fire Chief, CF Green Airport here in Providence, Rhode Island, and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure, Charlie. And last but certainly not least, Adam, say hello.
Hey guys, Adam Ganaway, Kellogg, Iowa, with the Kellogg Volunteer Fire Department captain.
All right, good stuff. So a couple of things. So accountability, we got some prepared stuff that we want to do, but a couple of quick comments from the viewers already out in front, and I think it's a great way to frame the discussion. The first one is actually from Ethan, who couldn't be with us tonight, but this is interesting. So Ethan's point says lack of accountability has been in the NIOSH top 5 factors of fireground line of duties deaths for many years. He's saying 40 plus. So lack of accountability does come up frequently in line of duty deaths. So that's certainly something worth noting. That's a good way to start the conversation. And we also have Fire Rescue TVs with us tonight. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that. And accountability begins just after dispatch. And you know, that's sort of like the size up model. I'm actually going to say maybe even before dispatch, but that's a good comment. Does your department dispatch a battalion chief to conduct roll call, apparatus, en route to the call, or what have you? So we'll discuss that one as we go. Well, let's answer that one. Anybody on the panel? Do you send a chief on a, you certainly don't send it for, food on the stove, or, well, maybe you do. I don't know. Do you send it routinely a chief to conduct roll call of apparatus while they're en route? Anybody on the panel?
That's a little foreign to me. I'll be perfectly honest with you. As a chief, volunteer chief, probably the only one on the panel. I go out on basically as many calls as we get. I have 3 assistants, and we're all quite active. But we have MDTs in our vehicles, and while I'm responding, I can see who's responding to the firehouse. And between that and listening to the radio, I know what apparatus I have incoming. But as far as any accountability, from that point to on scene, no, there is none. Except for the dispatcher, I guess you could say that he's accountable. He knows what apparatus is on the road. If somebody doesn't chime up on the radio in a timely fashion, he will actually call them and say, hey, is everything okay? What's your location? As far as regular accountability, we don't start that on scene. We run a regular tag up system.
All right, and we'll talk about that. Greg, how about you? You're a deputy in the volunteer world. Do you do anything different? Again, here is the question up on screen: does your department dispatch a battalion chief to conduct roll call of apparatus en route? So
virtually the same. So we have data heads in the duty trucks as well as most of the frontline apparatus. So we use the IM responding system, if anybody knows that one.
Right.
So we get a dispatch, it gets sent out to us as people are answering the page to respond. They tag in as either responding to their home station, to the secondary station because we keep their gear, or responding delayed because they're going to be greater than 5 minutes. And then the apparatus report en route with the number of people on board, and they don't actually hand over passport tags until they check in at the incident.
Okay. Good stuff. All right, so let's actually get right into it. Joe, let's that's what we're talking about tonight is the fireground accountability. So certain parts of the accountability system. So here's the deal. Who is available and or on duty? There are different ways to do that. The career side handles that a little different than the volley side does. There's a non-emergency use. Physically, who is on duty in the career side? Do we even know who's on duty? There is a tactical use on the fireground. And I'm going to pose the question. I'm kind of an accountability junkie here, so I'm going to pose the question. Is your accountability standalone, or does it fit somewhere into your ICS system? So, Joe, let's get into the next couple, and then we'll get some discussion if we can. So if we are true to doing what accountability says, if we look at the NFPA standard, if we look at what's going on, one of our challenges is this. You're supposed to know who is on scene. You're supposed to know what unit they're operating with. You're supposed to know where they are on the fireground geographically, and you're supposed to know what task or assignment they're doing. So the question is, how do you do it, right? That's what we're talking about. How do you do it in your world? So let's do one more, Joe. So viewers, so here's the question. Let's just go back to that one and we'll ask the viewers the question. Anybody that's watching live on YouTube, if you want to send us a YouTube comment, just flip backwards one, Joe, and answer that question to see how you can do that appropriately. So is that still happening, Greg?
Is which still happening, Pete?
Didn't you say that I was being shown?
Oh, that wasn't me.
Stones.
Okay. All right. We should be looking at the main slide here from Joe. Is what we should.
Pete, I think Joe's having some technical difficulties because you're on my main screen as well.
Am I? Is there a white box around me?
No.
Okay. Let me just hang on one second.
I think he needs to share his screen, Pete. I could, if he's showing that as his profile pic, if you click on him, I could see the screen, just to the slide.
Okay. We should be presenting to everyone at this point. Joe, can you do that in your Hangout window? Can you go to present to everyone in your Hangout window? And let's see if that changes it. I'm sorry about the technical problem, folks that are watching. Just bear with me. But it does give you time to make your comments there. So it's all good. Um,
Hey,
Is it-
Pete, can I jump in? I'll give you some non-meat filler until Joe gets squared away.
all right, let me ask you, is that up now or not?
No.
All right, go ahead, Charlie.
The comment about the dispatcher, the battalion chief en route doing accountability. Our accountability begins at the change of shift. We work 24s and we work 07 to 07. When all the shift members are present and the reliefs are all in, the riding assignments are given for that shift. And at that point, the guys go out and put their gear on the trucks and put their tags in the proper places. When the safety officer, whoever is the assigned safety officer for that shift, or myself when I'm on duty or responding to a call, excuse me, I already know who's riding where. The accountability board is actually in my truck, and my truck is the command vehicle, even though I'm the deputy. I take charge of operations, and I actually have a command board in my truck. And part of it is accountability. It hangs right in the back gate. It's set up. It's pretty much weatherproof. And I will take the tag. The safety officer will bring me the tags for each individual scene. I'm getting ahead of it, but our accountability is basically already in place. So I know if I'm the duty chief, I know who's where and what their assignments are going to be when we reach the emergency scene. So our accountability starts at change of shift when the riding assignments are given.
Right, and that's from the career side of the house, so that may be different from some of the volunteer folks, but yeah, absolutely that's the case. And from one of the viewers, we were able to see that slide okay, so I'm just going to stay where we are. Joe, just stay where you are, and I'm going to pin you, and we'll see if we can make that work. So go to the next two slides, if you would, Joe. One is comment from viewers. There you go. All right, no, go back one. One more. I'm sorry. One ahead. All right. So when you're talking about the system, we're talking about the procedures, we're talking about the equipment and the people. So you've heard some things here tonight. You've heard about tags, you've heard about command boards, you've heard about all sorts of things that we have, and we're trying to figure out how to best manage these things to be able to use them. So that's what we're trying to figure out here. So let's do this. Let's just run the panel. Adam, what do you use in your department? What are you using for an accountability system? Just describe it briefly.
We just got a command board, and each of us have 2 tags that velcro underneath our helmets with our names on it.
All right, so everybody's got 2 tags. Are you supposed to use 2 tags, or is one in case it's lost?
We use 2. One goes in the truck. We got some Velcro on the truck, and if you ride in that truck, one goes on the truck, and then one will be on the command board.
All right. Let me ask you a question, and we'll ask everybody the same question. Does it work?
We don't utilize it like we should.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Rob, describe your system. I'm going to go back to Charlie. We just heard Charlie says change his shift, and he's got a board. What are you doing, Rob? What kind of system, and how do you use it?
We have a tag-up system. The members on the way to the alarm should hand their accountability tags to the officer of the rig. The officer clips them to a big ring that has the unit identity number on it. And what happens is when they get on scene, one of our safety officers is supposed to go around and collect all the tags, bring them to me as the incident commander, or whoever the incident commander is. Doesn't work. It works. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't work as well probably as it should.
Right. And I think you're being blatantly honest. That's what we're talking about here.
Accountability is a big thing for me.
Right.
It really is, because, you know, like somebody brought up before, accountability is a 2-part system. You know, that's fine. I brought you into the scene. I know you were on so-and-so engine. But now where are you on the fire ground?
Right. Right. And we'll talk about that. I got maybe a little solution for that for some of the viewers that are watching. Kevin, describe your system, if you would, please. Is your system similar to what Charlie was describing?
Yeah, maybe similar to Charlie, maybe a little more similar to Rob's, Chief. We have a tag system, and the only difference being on the career side, that goes on the big ring for the engine right when or the ladder right when the guys come to work. So that's on the ring the whole shift. And then if we get something, that ring is supposed to come off the truck and be collected. Now, to be honest with you, on a single alarm fire, that might not come off. And if I'm running accountability in my head, and utilizing the radio and some other things that I think we'll probably talk about. But it is a tag system with rings, and if it goes beyond a single alarm and I need some additional help, I'll probably have a safety officer who'll double as an accountability officer who'll grab those rings off the apparatus and break out the whiteboard and start to track things. So it's kind of down and dirty for most of what we do, and to be honest with you, it's largely on me and the company officers to maintain accountability.
Okay, fair enough. Greg, you had stepped away. So, Greg, what's your system? Describe it for me and tell me how it works. What's the mechanism?
Okay, so the firefighters carry two Velcro color-coded tags that go with their rank. So whether they're firefighter officers, so firefighters yellow, officers red, chief officers white. And we do have support personnel that operate outside the hot zone. Those are black tags. So they're stuck on the front of their lids, and then we have I have my own helmet front, but all the firefighters take a helmet front off the rig they step on. So it'll be Engine 61 or Squad 6, or they'll take their two tags, put them on two separate boards. One board stays in the truck, and the other board goes in the check-in when they get on scene. And the boards, one thing I think we do different that's great that might address some problems that some of the other people are having is the board's got a small piggyback board on it because we don't always operate at company strength on scene. So we want to split the crews for tactical assignments. The boards can jump off. You can put the people on the teams as they're represented, and then stick them on the accountability boards, the ones I sent you the pictures of earlier.
Right, right.
As the incident, if it gets more complex, we'll do the same thing and get a safety officer. And then the primary accountability board stays with the IC, but the RIT team also runs an accountability board that's separate, and the safety officer runs a separate accountability board.
Okay. Pete's pet peeve. I got to do a pet peeve alert. I should have a little banner that comes up that says pet peeve alert. I am of the belief that it is someone other than the safety officer. I don't really care who that is. I think it's somebody other than the safety officer that should be managing accountability. Just Pete's opinion. Here's my point. If we want a safety officer, I need him looking at stuff on the building. I don't need him shuffling tags, writing lists, or anything like that. I need him to be the safety officer, and I can get somebody else to manage the tags. We use something called the Passport Accountability System. I'll have pictures here in a second. And I like the fact that Greg instituted the SHIELD situation. And our situation was really 3 accountability tags. One of them never worked. So the Passport is for the engine company. That's what it is. The Passport is the engine company. You put your individual names on that. So there was a red one. A red one stays in the truck. So when you come to work in the morning, you put your tag on the red one that stays in the truck. The white Passport, that is the whole thing that holds everybody's names on it, we would actually stick that either to the back of somebody's helmet, and that had the crew on it. And that would go to the back of the helmet. We stuck them to portable radios. We stuck them anywhere. It was their job to hand those off as soon as they got on scene. That was there. If ever I saw, as the IC, if ever I saw a red tag, the red Passport tag, it indicated to me that I had not seen the crew. I saw the crew. If I had a white Passport tag in my hand, they handed it to me. If I didn't and saw a red one, that was an indicator to me that I had not physically laid eyes on that crew. So that was a way that we used the system a little differently, and we tweaked it to our own fashion. But everybody's got a method here. Let's look at Joe. Why don't we go over to that and see if we can get some. So radio procedures, unit supervision, there's all these ways to do it. Let's talk about this. You know, I think an incident command team is essential. I think you need, you know, at a working fire, you need an incident commander. You should have a safety chief. You can have an accountability officer. You can have a technical advisor or senior advisor or whatever. You can have all of those things. But that's important as well. I also think that your radio can be a form of accountability. Your radio can be a form of accountability. I was a huge proponent that when a company transmitted on the air, they said where they were. I think that does a lot of good for a lot of people. So that would be Engine 1, second floor to command. Any doubt where Engine 1 is now? I know where he is. Engine 1 pulls some sealants, they do something else, and they go up to the third floor. Suddenly it's Engine 1, third floor to command. All right? I know they moved. It just does such a world of good for so many people. Kevin, you use the portables or Portable 100. Just add the phrase, you know, where they are. It makes some sense. Let's get to some comments here. We got an active audience tonight, which is great. So let's bring in some of their stuff. And so John Dixon's with us. John's listening to us out there. Take a mental accountability of my crew every tour. So accountability is not physical. So yeah, I think that's certainly a valid point. Fire Rescue TV is with us. His question earlier about the battalion chief and figuring out if you've got multiple channels, it's getting all the units on the same TAC channel. So good point. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. That's good. Warren is out there with us, and Warren's got a couple of comments. A good accountability system will curtail the freelancing on the scene. Interesting. A good accountability system and some good company offices will certainly, do that. So that's important. John is saying we need to perform PARs at regular intervals, not just when things go bad. So let me ask a question to the panel. Let's leave that for a minute. Who is conducting routine status reports or PARs? Is anybody conducting routine status reports or PARs?
We do, Pete.
Say again, Charlie. You do?
We do every 15 minutes, depending upon the nature of the incident and how long we've been operating. And as the incident scales down, we might, for instance, as the ops officer, I have I can clear with command and get the option to up that time period to 20, 25, 30, or I can shorten it to 10 or even 5 if things are really getting solid. You know, because if the whole thing goes sideways, I can do it every 5 minutes if I want.
Okay. Kevin, do you use status reports or regular PARs?
Yes, we do, Pete, about every 20 minutes, and it's not high-tech. I bought my dispatcher a timer, I think I spent $10 at Walgreens and bought him a timer, and he sets that and calls me every 20 minutes for an update on how things are going, and we conduct a PAR, which always includes the location of the companies in their responses back to me. I usually conduct it, Pete. He gives me a special tone that goes over the fire ground, and I conduct it myself. I know sometimes dispatchers do it. In my case, I like doing it. Just gives me that perspective of what's going on and where everybody is.
Yep, good. Warren, when were you using PARs? Did you do regular personnel accountability reports, Warren, and what time interval if you did? You're muted. There you are.
Yeah, I still had the YouTube up. Did you ask something?
Yes, I did. When you were there, did you use regular status report intervals to conduct a PAR, and what was that time interval, or did you only conduct a PAR if there was an emergency situation?
It was every 15 to 20 minutes, and the dispatcher would nudge you.
Okay, perfect. Let's go back to John for a different comment. And what he's doing is there's two tags, one on the rig, one on the person. Level 1 accountability is a single tag. Level 2 is a second tag at the point of entry. So he's controlling entry accountability, which is certainly a good system as well. While I'm on the John bandwagon, let me go one more to John. And his mutual aid chiefs pick up the role of safety and accountability. And that's good if you're in a small department. You can have a mutual aid chief that you've got a lot of confidence in to become part of your command team, as long as if you're, again, I suggest certainly training with those people as well. And then our folks here, Fire Rescue, Virginia Beach uses a Velcro name on a small icon of each firefighter on the rig passport. When on the scene, the officer passes by command, drops it off, or it's left on the truck for a runner to pick up. And I think that's a pretty common one to do. So that's a good one. What else is going on? Let's go back to where we were. Joe, we've left you out of the conversation. You did some stuff when you were working in private industry. You were managing as many as 100, 150 people at a crack. How are you dealing with that in private industry, Joe? Let's see if I can bring Joe up. Or not. Joe, are you with us? No. All right. So let's ask the question. So Charlie made a question in the chat room when I said, the company should tell you where he is. Why isn't the company operating where you sent him? I think was the gist of the conversation. It's what happens on the fireground. I mean, does every company report back to you? In a perfect world, the company should say, what's my next orders? In real life, the captain's probably going to move his company where he needs to move his company, or at least that's been my experience.
Well, then we're freelancing, Pete, and that's what we want to try to avoid, right?
Oh, there's no question. I agree with you, Charlie. I'm not disagreeing.
That's my big bugaboo about accountability, and that's my thing. The thing that sticks on my craw. The companies, people start freelancing.
Well, let me ask you a question. So there's two guys bringing a line up the stairway, and the guy says to the other guy, "You wait here. I'm going to go lighten up on this line," and he goes actually out to the front lawn. There's two people operating alone now.
I don't think that's the same thing. I think they're both still heading in the same direction, and they're both maintaining the same assignment. That's a different thing altogether than if let's say a company of 3 took a line to the second level, and then the next thing you know, they're helping a ladder company pull ceilings on the 3rd floor. That's the kind of the freelance that I'm talking about.
Right. And I'm not disagreeing. I'm just suggesting that there are ways to manage it. And I also think that in the volunteer world, the idea of giving a radio location, position, where you are. So Engine 1 says, Engine 1 second floor to command or operations or whatever world you're using. Engine 1 second floor. And then the next thing you hear is Engine 1 mayday, mayday, mayday. Where's the RIT team going?
Second floor.
Right? We've established some things here. So everybody on the fireground knows. Now, the reality is, I guess one of the reasons we brought this up, somebody on the panel suggested this. I think in the real world, I mean, we heard Kevin say, the rings don't always come off the truck. Rob said that. It doesn't always happen. Adam said it. It doesn't always happen. I agree with you. It is a priority. I'm just not sure it's being managed well in the fire service today. So is it the fact that the system doesn't work? Is it the company offices? Where's the hole in the bucket? Warren, if you had to, why don't accountability systems work as well as they should on the fireground? Or do you think they work well? You might take the opposite position. What do you think, Warren?
I just have to find that mute button. I think they work well as long as the training reinforces the fact that they need to be used. And in our recruit schools, they started the accountability the first time they started evolutions. So it was just ingrained to them. You know, you come in, you're riding that rig, the tag goes on the rig, the officer gets to the scene, goes to the battalion chief, or like the beach uses, a runner may come back and get it if it was the first due company, because they're going to be busy doing things. And I think, at least in our department, it was very much inculcated in the daily operations. And you almost never had an issue of somebody not using their accountability system.
Right, right. Okay, good. Joe, are you back with us now? I was talking about your you working in private industry. How did you manage the 100 or 150 people you were dealing with? What was your accountability practice?
Well, there's a couple things. I assume I'm coming through.
Your audio is fine. You need to stop sharing for just a moment and bring yourself back up.
Easy for you to say. Let's do this. All right. Well, not got it. All right. We did disaster recovery, and so we would scan people in as they came into the site. Once they reported to a crew, they were assigned. Well, after briefing, they were put in crews, and then at that point, the plans officer on the resource status was responsible for making sure their accountability stayed with them, and they were in radio contact, just like you said. So the section chiefs managed their groups, and the resource plans officer in situation status for resource kept track of where they were. If one of them was sent to a hospital or sent on an errand or something like that, they were tracked in and out all the time. We also tracked them from the time of dispatch. We tracked them to the airport, from the airport to the transportation, because in a lot of cases you might go into zones where we might dispatch them from the airport, and if it's an earthquake area, they wouldn't be able to get to the site. So we tracked them all the way with satellite phones too. So they had check-in times, and each crew has its own working assignment sheets in that industry. They had their own working assignment sheets, and those assignment sheets drove accountability checks into the clock, and the clock would just bring it up, and it got pushed to the support officer, and then it got pushed out to the field.
Okay, when you say a clock, you're actually keeping a running timesheet, a running tally of what's going on for the course of the event.
Yeah, it's a huge tactical worksheet in fire terms, Chief. It actually has every team or every crew, their orders and their location at all times.
Okay.
And their predicted places they're going to be too.
Right, right. All right, why don't we do this? Why don't you go back, Joe, and go to that next slide that says equipment, if you don't mind, if you could do that.
All right, let's see if I can do all this. Takes a little bit.
And we'll see if enemy. Okay, so another comment from the field is John. Economy of motion. Not every company will stay in the same geographical location. The officer must communicate with the IC. So I actually think I'm in for a T-shirt, because that was somebody agreed with me from the audience. So I think you write those down whenever that happens. Thank you, John, for that. That's again, I think that's worse in a small job than it is in a big job where you don't have the resources. I think it is worse for us in a smaller job. So let's take a look a little bit at some of the equipment that we're talking about. And so on the top right there, you see the passport accountability system. Again, the different color. The passport is the vehicle number. So that's the vehicle piece. And then people's names get put on there. So you're transferring crews. You're moving crews at a time. Can somebody on the YouTube side tell me if that's projecting? The tags are projecting. Somebody just send me a text, if you will, from the outside. I'd appreciate it. So that's the passport system. It's very common, and it also includes, as Greg said, with the shields. The shields are actually a part of the passport system. Then there's the individual tags. It says what department. They may be color-coded, might have a name on it, and you very often see tags on the back of helmets like you see on that lower left system. Now, we talk about the complexity or simplicity of these. I tell a story of a fire that I went to see, and this older gentleman is standing in the middle of the road, large bonfire in a volunteer department. And the gentleman is out there, and his hand is kind of contorted like this with his fingers, and he's got brass rings on each of his fingers, and they're stacked up, little brass rings. And I said, what's the deal? What are you doing over here? And he points to me and he says, well, these are the guys that are in front of the building. These are the guys that are behind the building. These are the guys that are on the other side of the building. And quite frankly, he had this very rudimentary accountability system on his fingertips. So it's really the use of the system. It really makes sense. Warren, you're talking about the passport system. Is that what you were using? We never actually got to ask you that.
Yeah, I think we stole it from Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle was a huge proponent of the passport system. I'm not so sure that that was not an offshoot of the Mary Pang fire. I think it may have been when they lost personnel out there. But the passport system is very, very simple. I've had times where, again, I would be the IC in a small department sometimes because that's just the nature of the beast. And when you open your turnout coat, you've got Velcro down the inside of the turnout. And the fact of the matter is that you could just take that passport that somebody gave you and stick it to there for the moment until you figured out what was going on. You could actually take the passports. These people are on the first floor. You cross them and you Velcro them together, and those people are on the second floor. It depends how creative you want to be with the system that you can do it. You need to figure out what's going on. So again, I think there are ways to be creative using the systems. Is anybody using anything different than that? And Greg, I've got your command board picture. I'm just not going to be able to do the mechanics of it, so I apologize for that. Anybody using anything different variation than this? And so the million-dollar question is, some folks said, Shane put some comments in earlier, what is mutual aid doing? So Adam, is the mutual aid departments around you using the same thing as you or something different? Adam?
Everybody in our county is using the same board, same tag. The difference is we all have our own colors. Our department has red, and another department have orange. So we all are using the same system, just different color tags.
Right, so you can differentiate. Charlie, what you use at the airport, is the local mutual aid departments doing the same thing?
We actually designed our system in concert with our surrounding mutual aid partners. Our tags actually have the individual's first initial, last name, and then on the end of the tag it says TF Green Fire Rescue. And to take it one step further, all of our accountability tags are lime green, the same exact color as our apparatus, so we can tell at a glance where our people are, unless of course unless of course we have another department come in with lime green tags, which hasn't happened yet. Warwick's tags are mostly red or white for chief officers, and it's worked very well for us.
All right. And Greg, you're a county system. I think you indicated that. Is that right? Countywide, everybody's using the same deal?
Not exactly. We've got the 9 departments in the mutual aid agreement. So
Okay.
we're the same accountability system.
Okay, nine closest. Joe, you said you were on a countywide system. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Kevin, what about you? What are the folks around you doing? Are they doing something the same, similar, or what?
Yeah, very similar, Pete. We picked our system based on the other towns in the district, so it's not exactly the same, but similar.
Okay, Rob, what about your mutual aid? Is your mutual aid the same?
No. Some of our mutual aid, I'm not exactly sure what kind of accountability system they use. There's 109 departments in our county. Some of them I'll never probably end up dealing with. And to my knowledge, there's actually no standardized accountability system throughout the county at all.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That makes being the IC calling for mutual aid a little problematic sometimes.
Generally, I hope. I have to say, 99.9% of the time when I call for mutual aid, when an engine comes or a truck comes or whatever I mutual aid, it does come with a chief from that department. So they will be at the command post with me, and God forbid we need to do a quick accountability. They know who they have there. Last Sunday's fire, I ended up pulling everybody out of the building, and both mutual aid chiefs that I had were at the command post with me. Both of them said, "Chief, I have par," or "All my guys are out."
Right.
It actually worked well. I actually knew the mutual aid companies were out of the building and accounted for before my own guys.
Right. And Warren, what was the deal? Was it pretty system-wide, or was it just you folks using the system, or mutual aid using the same accountability or not?
Yeah, as far as I know, the whole Washington Metropolitan Council of Governments was using the same system.
Okay, perfect. So that works out. Joe, let's go to the next slide, please. So viewers are out there. So as we begin to talk about this, you need procedures. If you don't have procedures, talk to somebody, figure it out, go to the university or YouTube, do something so that and you're developing some SOPs. And I would echo what Warren said earlier is, mandate use. Mandate the use of this. The company offices have to be vigilant to be able to do this. If you do not have the equipment, you can get the equipment. It's all pretty simple stuff. Again, I'm a huge fan of the passport system. I just think that it's so versatile. It does so many things for you. I think it's decent. So worth doing. Accountability cannot stand alone. When you talk about incident command, accountability should fit right into the incident command system. It should not be this separate thing that goes out there on its own. I think that's important. I think that's very important. You are the incident commander. You need to know where your people are. And so whether that's a gentle slap, if they need it, if they're freelancing on you, as Charlie said, you've got to figure it out to make sure that everybody knows where everybody is. And I think that's the company commander level. And again, we talked about, zero tolerance. Charlie mentioned zero tolerance for freelancing. I think we all do. I think today, I think I saw it as much as I complained about it. I think I saw it and tried to address it every time I could. I also think that part of this accountability process, if you have a member talking on the radio and they have a low air alarm sounding, you should challenge them. Engine 2, do you have a member on low air? You need to make your way out of the building. I think the incident, we actually gave our dispatchers the right to challenge that. All right? I think that you should challenge any low air alarm. And don't be a bonehead about it, but you need to say when a member transmits, because we know it happens, do you have a member on low air or are you exiting the building? Sometimes we've got to manage at that level. I would hope you didn't have to, but you do. And pass alarms, I think, are a big deal. If you watch video or watch the 6 o'clock news, for God's sakes, you can see the pass alarms going off, and it's become the car alarm in some cases that nobody is responding to. So, have some people come out, they toss them on the apparatus, and suddenly behind the IC, there's a pass alarm going off or whatever. How are you folks dealing with that? Adam, does that happen in your fire grounds or not?
Our guys are pretty good about when they come out of the building, when they're taking their packs off. They're they're deactivating the alarm. So we don't have it so much here anymore.
Okay, good. Charlie, I think you just had a conversation with Rob about that. So any problems with pass alarms activating or pre-activating, pre-alerting?
I think we all can say that we have that headache, and I'm one of those people that believes that every pass device activation has to be investigated. Don't assume it's on the front bump of the rig, on the back step. It could be on somebody who's down and having a problem. I force every pass alert to be investigated to the point where I become even a bigger pain in the behind than I usually am.
Well, it's a good point. The other thing, I'll ask a question. In some cases, ICs do not wear air packs, right? The incident commander, the command staff may not be wearing air packs. Does anybody put freestanding pass alarms on those commanders while they're on the fire ground? Just asking a question. Just asking a question. Probably not. Probably not. So, Greg, what are you doing for pass alarms, low air alarms? Anybody?
Pretty much what you've been talking about. It was interesting. I was evaluating people at the training center, and my people were coming out prior to the bell ringing. And the instructor said, "Well, why are you out here? You got." You said you were low on air, and I said, "Well, that's our policy in the department is we don't ring the bell inside." Right. The bell's a warning device. It's not to tell you how much air is left in the tank. So we've got a couple policies on that. So whoever hits half tank first advises the rest of the team they're at a half tank, and that's passed on to the IC.
Excellent. That's a great policy, being out before the bell rings. Kevin, What are you doing about pass and?
One last thing that cured it, and it should cure it for everybody else, is when you take your pack off and you lay it on the ground, the pass alarm goes off. You buy the rest of the company a case of beer.
There you go. I like it. Good stuff. Kevin, what are you doing about pass alarms, low air alarms, or anything of that sort?
Pretty much like you described, Pete. Try to challenge it over the air. But it is a problem, especially the pass alarms when guys come out and take their tanks off for rehab or whatever. So we have to get a little more diligent about that. But I do try to go over the air and get some kind of a comment back on what's going on with that low air alarm in particular.
Right. Rob, what's going on in your world?
That's a huge pet peeve of mine, and the other one is emergency alerts on the radios.
Right.
They always, with the lapel mics, they always seem to get bumped, get hit, whatever. But the other night I had four. I had 4 false activations, and that's what I'm constantly going over the air with. Ex-officer, ex-irons, XOV, are you okay? And then when I don't hear from them, even I probably know it's a false activation, but even when I don't hear from them, my heart starts beating. That's like
absolutely.
my worst nightmare.
Yeah. We should do a whole session on radio stuff like Rob was talking about. I believe for safety purposes, every firefighter should have a radio, and I believe we should give half of them batteries. I get to decide.
Having everybody on the fire ground with the radio is great from a safety standpoint, but it opens up an entire new category of problems like you've never seen before. If you want to be able not to hear anybody talk on the radio, give everybody a radio.
Yeah. Well, like I said, give only half the people batteries. That's the deal.
You know what I tell my guys all the time? If it was like cell minutes and we had to pay per minute, we'd be bankrupt.
Warren, couple of things. How did you manage it? You mentioned the word discipline, but how did you manage it on the fire ground? Low air alarms, pass devices, and so forth.
Low air, they had to come out as the crew, take care of the problem, and generally they'd be going to rehab if it was a worker. Investigate any alarms that went off. I'll admit, especially in training, I was bad for forgetting to shut my cylinder off and resetting the alarm. When you get old like Joe, you geese and you don't remember. And half the time I can't hear them anyway.
Hey, I'm on the call.
I know you are. We'd love to see if you're still alive. And then as far as radios, every member on the rig had a radio. part of the procedures were, unless you were the officer and you'd have to have a good reason to be talking on the radio if you weren't the crew leader.
Right, right. So it is a training issue. I think many of these things we come down to generally is a training issue. John teaches at the fire academy, and they indoctrinate him early on. If you have the pass activation, you do some push-ups and stuff. So there's ways to do it. Certain ways to indoctrinate students early on. So the question is this: I don't know what we resolved as we get to the end here. We've seen that we've had some challenges. We've seen that there are different ways to use systems. We heard about colors. I'm talking about colors for different stages of the accountability. Some people use colors for offices. There's 100 different ways to do this. And I don't think there's right or wrong. I think what you want to do is be able to enhance this so that we can make the system easier. If we have a system that's too complex, it's never going to be used. And that's really the key. It's never going to be used. And I think that here's a couple of real life situations. Initially, first 5 minutes, I think the IC can manage accountability. Maybe. 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. After that, there needs to be an accountability person. I've said a number of times, the city of Providence many years ago had a system where they would actually call an engine company who was trained to support command. They would park that truck and those 3 personnel would get assigned to the command team. So, it's interesting. I can have a guy to be a scribe. I can have a guy to be an accountability officer. I can do those kinds of things. Now, people say that's a waste of manpower, but, sometimes we do the waste of manpower, but we don't hesitate to shut down companies when we have to go to the line of duty, death, funeral. So let's try to look out where our people are and make sure that happens. And I'll leave you with a little silly anecdote to think about accountability. Joe, can we go over to that last slide? No, next one, back one.
Thanks, Joe.
So here's the deal. The next time any of our viewers or anybody on the panel goes to a restaurant, when you get the bill at the end, take a look at the bill, the receipt that they give you. That little 19-year-old, 20-year-old waitress that waited on you had a system when you walked in. She knows there was a party of 4. She knows exactly what table you were at or where you were in the building. It says who your company officer was or the waitress's name, and it says when you arrived and when you left. So if they can figure this out in a restaurant that's doing, 200, 300, 400 people in a night, and they've got a system to manage geographic. Let me ask you this. Have you ever gone to a restaurant with another couple and they got there first? And you say, where's Jane Smith? Oh, they're at table 26 and Judy's their waitress. You pull up on the fire ground and say, hey, where's engine 3? And you got a better shot of getting hit by lightning. Nobody knows where you are. So it's kind of a funny little system. The next time you go to a restaurant, just think about incident accountability a little bit, and you'll be able to do that. And, some folks, like Warren, if you're doing the drive-through at McDonald's, you don't get that stuff on your bill. You know what I mean? You can't get that all the time. But any summary comments from the panel? Let's just open it up to the panel before we close the night. Any summary comments about accountability? Did we expose it? Did we make you think a little differently and hopefully give you some ideas to make it easier for your system? Adam, is anything we can have a discussion with in your department now?
Yeah, I think so. We really need to look at how we use ours. Half the time it's left on the truck. With our low staffing, we get maybe 6 people showing. I know it's probably a poor excuse, but it gets left on the truck. And I know there's times where we do have enough people, and nobody wants to be the person to take care of that accountability board. They want to be the guy on the attack line or the guy pulling the ceiling, and no one wants to be taking part of that, and it's a very important thing on the fire ground.
Yeah, well, when you've got a little bit of an opportunity, it's a pretty important job, and I don't want to minimize this, but in your world, you could actually have one of your explorers or one of your juniors collecting tags or at least doing it. I mean, you need somebody to supervise it, but for runners and things like that, you might be able to get that system managed with some of your folks who cannot do fire duty. So.
We also do have tags for our juniors. I forgot to mention that. All of our juniors do have their own tags, and they do have their own collar.
Right. Excellent. Charlie, any thoughts as we wrap this one up?
I think I don't think anybody on the panel or any of the listeners out there would be surprised at our self-criticisms as far as our individual accountability systems work. I think the important thing is that there's one in place, and that it is, whatever it is, that it's utilized and the individuals in the department train with it. I think we also have to acknowledge that there is no perfect system out there. As just a little side note, and it's way too late for it tonight, I'd be interested in running the panel or hearing the viewers' thoughts on the Mayday policies. What's your Mayday policy when something does go sideways and you do have to activate a writ?
Yeah, no, we could certainly do that on a panel. Greg, as we wrap up accountability, what are you thinking about?
I'm actually listening to the board. I think in our little department here, we're not doing a bad job. We're really regularly checking in and almost without fail. I think it helps to have the passport on the front of the helmet, because when someone hasn't tagged in, it's glaring.
Right.
Across the fire ground.
Right. Excellent. Kevin, any thoughts as we wrap up the panel tonight?
Pete, I just think, whether it's tags or passports, none of those are a substitute for, good, strong command presence on the fire ground. That's where it all, I think, is driven from. That in conjunction with the officers. If you got the guy in front paying attention and the officers paying attention, that's as good as an accountability system as you need. Not that we don't need the others, but and I think, Pete, the soft environment is where it starts. You mentioned that radio transmission or location is part of a radio transmission. I've had very limited success, but some success in having the guys do that on routine calls, and that will pay off in spades on the fire ground. And we didn't have time for it, but I got a little sheet that I make out at the beginning of the shift where I talk to each officer. I find out who's doing what. It's where I start to get my head in the game. I know who's working. If I have an overtime officer or maybe a rookie driving or something, and I keep that in my pocket. And if we need it, that's the first thing I do. I whip it out of my pocket and hand it to the accountability officer. Here's who's here, and then we'll start filling in where they are. So anyway, Pete, just that general comment that your overall fireground command presence and the company officer leadership, that's really where the accountability starts and stops to a certain extent. So work on that.
Right. Rob, quick one. What do you got out of tonight? Any words that we can live with?
You know what? Accountability is so important nowadays, not that it ever was any less important prior. I think it's a diligent thing that everybody needs to be on top of, especially the company officers. When your rig is going out the door, you need to know who's on the rig, especially on the volley side. On the paid side, when you run a shift and you know who's on that rig for your shift, in my opinion, it makes it a little easier than, we could run 5 calls in 4.5 hours and have 5 different crews. So it's really important to have some type of solid accountability system there. And personally, from my department, I can tell you, full disclosure, it's not there yet. It's good, but it's not great.
Right.
I actually have some ideas that if the panel would like to stay after school today, I'd like to get your opinion on some of it.
All right. And Warren, you're going to get the last word on this tonight. What do you got?
Well, just to reiterate, one, you need an accountability system if you don't have it. And if you do have it, make sure you're routinely using it on all calls so it becomes part of your everyday motions going through the incident command piece of the thing. So you have to be accountability. You have to have accountability for accountability.
Right, right. Yeah, it's personal accountability as well. We do have one other. Bob, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate it. He's saying there's more accountability at the restaurant than there is on the fireground. in some cases, that might actually be true. So with that, we're going to leave it at that. And we will not be here next week. Next week is Easter Sunday. We will not be there. I hope you spend time with your family and friends and whatever it is and understand why it's Easter and what that's really all about. So we will not be here next week. We will rejoin the following week. Just look for the notice to go out. All right, we'll see you.